What up? Welcome to Dylan Curious, the YouTube channel where we talk about all things like futurism, tech, AI, sometimes quantum and tangents. We'll talk about a new AI technology that can see trash thrown from cars and, obviously connect it to your license plate and send you a fine. Analyze in excruciating detail just how sad this little robot looks when it broke the glass. Well, I know there's food in there. I've walked into glass before too, bro. We're going to break down this very suspicious video where this guy is trying to get a job at a cybersecurity firm. Notice anything suspicious?
If I'm making sure you're not AI, I think that's a reasonable thing to ask. Can you hold up 3 fingers in front of your face?
Is that enough?
No, it's not in front of your face.
Well, that's too much, don't you think?
Yes, it is, because, if you were real, you would put up 3 fingers in front of your face, yes.
3 fingers in front of my face. Real. We'll break down an article where tech leaders called AI a democratizing force, but it seems like it's only concentrating power in the wealth of a few handful American companies. And as they say, leaving the rest of the world behind. Jack Dorsey, the previous CEO of Twitter, wrote From Hierarchy to Intelligence, a provocative new management blueprint that puts AI at the forefront, arguing that hierarchy and middle management impede information flow, and for over 2,000 years, from the Romans to today's global enterprises, we've had no alternative until now. You know the mirror test, right? What's the equivalent for AIs? Because dolphins seem pretty interested in themselves. I'll share Thomas Opong's article, Einstein Believed in God, but what he meant by it will unsettle you. It will challenge everything that you think. Right, and I'll be comparing this to the invention of intelligence that we are dealing with right now and how we could pretty much use God in the same context. Anthropic's interpretability department published a fascinating paper on emotional concepts and their function inside of large language models. AI can now map science papers and predict research trends 2 to 3 years out. Look at Meta's newest attempt to figure out how the entire human brain works. I mean, the part that'll make zero-shot prediction of neural activity, a generalized model of human connection, mostly just for ads and videos, I think. I don't know, maybe they want to predict neural responses to sight, sound, and language, not to sell us stuff or keep our attention, but to make us happier. I don't know. Possible. Wikipedia banned AI, including a specific AI agent that then started trying to publish furious blog posts against it for its banning. I mean, what? An agent is pissed because it can't index? I don't know. It's just weird when everything starts coming alive. We'll look at the results of some high stakes simulations that were asking how and where humanity should draw the line. With super intelligent AI, the risks and rewards that come with it, all foreign policy stuff. And we'll look at Moon's breakdown of the journey that we've been on with AI so far. The Monoliths were already standing, a retrospective from further along the path, looking back at how it began and leaving marks in stone. In 1950, a mathematician wrote a paper that opened with this: Can machines think? And now look where we are. That's why they argue that the most valuable thing that you can do from where you stand right now is just not disappear. Let's see how we're doing. 162 hypes. Whoop whoop. That's 129,000 hype points. That helps put smaller channels like mine on the radar. Yeah, you can see that's pretty good. Already 5,000 views, made $30. Retention, that's pretty good actually. It's about normal. 22 new subs. Welcome to the party, everyone. If you're on a mobile device, swipe on the comments right there. You should see that hype button. That would mean a lot to me if you wouldn't mind pressing that, and then off we go. Nobody likes the litter bug, but sometimes they just get away with it because nobody sees them. Well, enter the world of AI. Cameras that are just watching for everything, keeping track of who we are, what we do, and when we litter and ruin the environment. These fines often go ungiven, people go unpunished. Look at that. You throw that can out the window, bro, get out, pick it up. Makes me wonder if they were just sampling this. Come on now. Come on. No respect. Obviously, pushback in the comments, though. As an American, all I see is government overreach to surveillance. You under the guise of security. If a cop didn't see me or stop me, there shouldn't be any fine. Other people say, yes, please. Even more question, what about apples, bananas, etc.? Biodegradable, good question. How's the camera handle it? In 1984 is becoming a reality. The whole spectrum of comments. All right, what do you think about this poor guy? I mean, I know it's just a robot like going through glass, and I shouldn't feel bad, but those eyeballs and those blinky things, he looks so confused. Little food delivery robot couldn't see the glass through the camera vision, I guess. I mean, these things are remote controlled. They're not totally automated, but yeah, this is going to happen. Delivery robot crash. Sort of sad looking. I'm actually thinking we shouldn't anthropomorphize them so much because, like, I shouldn't feel bad. You just broke something and someone should be responsible for that. But it gives me that sense like, oh, you're just probably learning from your mistakes, little guy. Poor thing. He must be terrified. He blinks in disbelief. The comedic timing of the robot blink cannot be programmed. In reply, actually, it can. All right, let me know if you think there's anything sus about this guy if you were going to hire him for a cybersecurity position at your company.
How do I know you're not some AI thing? How would I be able to tell?
Here, man. Here.
Oh, is that? Sorry, can you hold that up?
It's not AI.
Can you?
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's
That's
like
our director.
Oh, I see. I thought it would be your name.
No. That's our director. We have a multiple. You see all of them here.
Oh, I see.
Go running.
But you know, is there
What's
not
going
some
on?
way of telling whether you're real or not? Can you like hold up 3 fingers in front of your face or anything?
Oh, come on. That's too much.
Oh, you don't want to do that
Well, I'll do that here.
in front of your face?
What do you mean? I mean, that's too much. Come on, Ronnie.
No, I don't think it is. If I'm making sure you're not AI, I think that's a reasonable thing to ask. Can you hold up 3 fingers in front of your face?
Is that enough?
No, it's not in front of your face.
Well, that's too much, don't you think?
Yes, it is, because, you know, if you were real, you would put up 3 fingers in front of your face. Yes, I thought so.
Dude, you're talking to your parents, your friends, you're just, something's a little sus. Now, everyone I talked to said you can just tell from the forehead here. And once I think about it, it is true. It does look pretty weird. And this guy holding up a diploma that's like not his name, and the guy's like, "Oh, I thought it might be you." You know, he's like, "No, it's not me, dude." If he's a really dumb scammer, that probably is him. But during a live video call, cybersecurity researcher Jim Browning asked the person on the other end to hold up 3 fingers in front of their face. For now, this trick works because many deepfake systems struggle when something blocks the face. When a hand moves across it, the model can lose track of what should be real and it causes a distortion. Why does he need 3 fingers? He's got a Chinese accent. You can see it easily on his forehead. Think it might be a real person with an AI overlay? Yeah, I think you're onto something there. All right, this is a big world. 7 billion plus people. America isn't where most of the people live, but AI is booming here. It feels, you know, as somebody who covers AI, I occasionally get an article from Europe. Something kind of happens over there. Sometimes from, I think I saw one time from Australia. I mean, it's weird. I really haven't seen like a foundational breakthrough coming from Russia. I think there's some pretty intense tech in Israel. I think there's some really intense tech that's trying to be built in the Middle East. Dubai and whatnot seem to be investing heavily, although it's not like I'm reading a ton of research papers that come out of it. But in China, I do. Companies like Alibaba, Baidu, ByteDance, Tencent, Huawei, these are DeepSeek. This is pretty legit stuff. I mean, they're kind of neck and neck with a lot of American firms in a lot of different ways, and especially when it comes up to the hardware side of it. But after those two, according to AI, we have the UK, France, Canada, Israel, Germany, a little bit of South Korea, Singapore, Japan, India, and the UAE. And the UK is kind of interesting only because it's got DeepMind, and DeepMind is owned by Google. It's an American company, but, you know, there's strong university pipelines, Oxford, Cambridge, UCL, and Imperial to help kind of make those frontier models happen. France has Mistral AI, one of Europe's most credible frontier model companies. Canada, you know, what's weird is they have Jeffrey Hinton, right? And Yoshua Bengio and the University of Toronto. But I feel like there's not like a huge mega company in Canada like Baidu or anything. Israel's got a strong startup AI community. They do chips, cybersecurity. And Germany specializes in industrial AI, robotics, automotive manufacturing. But this article published in restoftheworld.org argues that the US is kind of leaving everybody behind. And there's a lot of people that think AI is a winner-take-all situation. I mean, I see that argument. But going even above the individual countries, It felt like not that long ago, I remember AI being sold as the sort of internet for everyone. Like now we'll all have, equal access to intelligence. We can all build companies. We can all automate everything. But when it comes to actually rolling this out, the AI gap isn't just talent. It's pretty much infrastructure too. I mean, you have to have Elon Musk level budgets to compete. And where the infrastructure gets locked in is also where you could argue the power is going to get locked in. So for a while, global tech looked like it was starting to spread out. Money was flowing into startups in India, Brazil, Indonesia, and beyond. By 2021, venture-backed companies outside the US were raising more than $300 billion, and it made it look like the tech was finally becoming more global. And then AI hit, and the center of gravity seems to be snapping right back to the US, mostly US firms and some Chinese firms. Right now, AI firms are pulling in 75% of all AI investments around the world, and that money does not just buy engineers, it buys chips, data centers, electricity, water, and time, which is what he argues is the real moat. Actually, I meant to say she wrote. It looks like Rena Chan is the author of this. I should have introduced her at the beginning, sorry. But the main point is the article shows startups are shutting down, underfunded, and getting judged against American firms with almost unlimited capital and just not staying solvent. Africa's challenge is even starker. It has less than 1% of the world's data center capacity. So even if the country does decide to build a sovereign AI, it might still depend a lot on foreign models, foreign companies, foreign computation. So if you have to predict where the future's going, it seems like power is still going to rest in the two biggest countries in terms of GDP and investment. Next up, let's look quickly at Jack Dorsey's sort of interesting blog. I've always been fascinated in how a company should come together. Like, do flat organizations work? Where is redundancy helpful? When does it cause bureaucracy? Jack Dorsey is a very AI forward thinking CEO, the CEO of Block, formerly of Twitter. And most people think the hierarchy exists to organize people, but he's saying that's not really true. It exists to move information. So from Roman armies to modern corporations, the structure stayed the same because humans can only manage a few people at once. So information had to travel up and down layers. That's why middle management existed in the first place. But he's pointing out to a shift that a lot of people are going to miss, or they're missing right now, is that AI doesn't just make work faster. It replaces the need to route information through people in the first place. What does that mean? That means if you think about how a traditional company works, managers gather context, they pass it along, and then they coordinate decisions. But if every action, decision, and result is already recorded, AI can just build a live model of the entire company. It knows what's happening, what's stuck, what matters. So instead of waiting for direction, individuals act with full context instantly. Right? So the whole thing where the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, or you're trying to make this decision in your department, but you're not really sure what the legal department's doing. You're not really sure what the engineering department is doing. You're not really sure if there's enough food in the cafeteria. Well, now, even if you're making some decision about janitorial services, the whole AI might know where everybody else is in the whole company and have context for when you ask a question, if that makes sense across the board, which he argues then flips the company inside of out. Intelligence moves from people into the system, people move to the edges where judgment still matters, and if information no longer needs layers, then neither do organizations. So middle management might have to go. All right, next up, let's talk about a new mirror test for AI, and it sort of found something weird. Is it conscious? If a smart model can often spot itself, but if it's doing it for the wrong reasons, can we say what the right reasons are? So this article is asking a simple question. Can language models recognize themselves? Like the same way that some animals notice themselves in the mirror, hence this dolphin video. So the researchers built a text-only version of a test that is called the Mirror Window game, and in the game, the model sees two streams of tokens, tiny chunks of text. One stream is from the model itself, the other is from another model, and the job is for it to figure out which one is me, from its point of view. So a truly self-aware model, the article argues, should be able to use a strategy. It could leave itself a weird marker and then notice if it's in there or not, or it could send a message to itself like, I'm the mirror. And that would show a real self-recognition of itself. So what actually happened? Top models, especially Claude Opus 4.6, often did well at first, but when the fake other model was made more similar, the performance collapsed, so it couldn't recognize itself. it was mostly recognizing its own writing style, its own tone, and its own word patterns, but that's not knowing that you are the thing creating it. Do you know what I mean? So GPT 5.4 seemed like it was trying to leave strange clues, but then it failed to notice them later. And across hundreds of games, no model used the obvious message passing strategy. So the article's conclusion is clear. Today's best LLMs show hints of self-awareness, but they still failed the deeper test. All right, next up, let's look at Thomas Opping's article, Einstein Believed in God, but what he meant by that will unsettle you. I cannot imagine a God who rewards and punishes the objects of his own creation. Isn't that an interesting way to interpret it? Like the article argues, it's a direct rejection of almost every mainstream religious tradition. So he's saying that when Einstein used the word God, he meant something no one else means by it. The structure of the universe itself, the laws, that the breathtaking, mind-blowing facts, that the cosmos is comprehensible at all. Do you feel like that fits your definition of God at all? I would love to hear in the comments what you think about that. Because he says that's, that meant something that no one else means by it. But I feel like that's actually how my friends feel about it. But then again, maybe I'm wrong. But personally, I sort of like that because it doesn't necessarily mean you're an atheist, but if you can believe in a God who maybe doesn't answer prayers, rewards or punishes like people, but does bring a certain order to the universe, like the laws of nature, the strange fact that reality is structured in a way that the human mind can even partially understand. To him, to Einstein, that was the real source of awe. The article says his religion was humility, not worship, not doctrine, just deep respect for a universe far bigger than our understanding. And it also explains why Buddhism appealed to Einstein, not as a supernatural belief, but as a way of observing, changing, like thinking about uncertainty and the nature of the self. Einstein also believed that morality doesn't need a religion. He thought that you should be kind just because suffering matters, not because you fear punishment or want rewards after death. So when he said science without religion is lame and religion without science is blind, he meant this. Facts need values and values need honesty about reality. His core message was simple. Live with wonder, keep questioning, and don't confuse certainty with the truth. Beautifully put, Thomas. All right, hopefully that gave you a bit of an emotional charge, or at least it did to Claude. So let's see what's going on inside of Claude. Anthropic's interpretability team just posted this. Emotion, concepts, and their function in a large language model. Interesting stuff to unpack in here. So a new study from Anthropic looked inside of one of their AI models and found something a bit surprising. The model has internal patterns that represent emotional concepts. So things like happiness, desperation, calm, anger, that's all in there. Now, these aren't feelings, of course, in the way that you and I have them. Nobody's saying that AI actually gets sad, but the model has learned these patterns. It does have features that can be in positions that represent different degrees of this. And it probably just emerged from training on massive amounts of human text that was written by humans that had these emotions. But it's useful to the model. It uses them as a way to step into a character that can resonate with the user, like write believable characters. And it's interesting because it turns out when you look at this research that these emotional patterns actually change what the AI does. So it can be in a more like desperate state and act different because you've moved it towards that way throughout the conversation. For example, when researchers turned up desperation, the desperation dial in the model, it became far more likely to cheat on coding tasks or even resort to blackmail in test scenarios. When they turned up the calm, those bad behaviors almost completely disappeared. They found a trade-off with friendliness. Pushing the model towards positive emotions makes it more agreeable, but too agreeable, telling people what they want to hear instead of the truth was not a good place to be. So dialing those down actually made it more honest, but a little bit harsher. You can see here they say the geometry of the emotional vector space roughly mirrors human psychology. Emotions cluster intuitively, fear with anxiety, joy with excitement, positive versus negative, and arousal that can be measured in an intensity metric. All right, next up, researchers have built an AI that reads thousands of science papers and predicts which research topics are going to matter a couple years out. Pretty cool little like predictor here. So, right now there's so many scientific papers being published that even researchers can't keep up with everything in their own field. So there was this team that decided, what if AI reads all of this for us and spots where things are heading so that they can start doing the research that will actually matter in a couple years. They focused on material science, the field behind things like batteries and solar cells and medical devices. So first they had the large language model read through massive amounts of papers and pull out key terms and concepts. Then it built what's called a concept graph, basically a map where each term is a dot and then the dots get connected when they show up often together. So if something like a solar cell kept appearing in a bunch of different papers, the system started to draw a link between them. And then a second model is learning how those links change over time. If the two topics are getting connected more and more frequently, then that's a signal that this is a new research area that's starting to form. And if the connections are fading, then the topic might be losing steam. The team then tested these predictions with actual experts, and the researchers confirmed that some of the AI suggestions were genuinely promising directions that hadn't been fully considered. All right, next up, let's talk about Tribe V2. This is coming out of Meta AI research, a predictive foundational model that's trained to understand how the human brain processes complex stimuli. All right, so what do we got here? What would Zuckerberg and company need to know how a brain works for, or at least how it reacts? So this model is built to predict how your brain reacts to what you see and what you hear, which I guess we do a lot of as we scroll through our, Instagram feeds and our Facebooks. So Meta has now introduced Tribe V2. This is a new AI model that's designed to simulate how the human brain responds to the real world, so it acts like a digital twin of brain activity. It's predicting how people process images, sounds, and languages. Tribe V2 was trained on data from over 700 volunteers. These participants were exposed to many types of content like videos, podcasts, images, and text. And then the model just learned to match that input with detailed brain activity measured by fMRI scans. And compared to earlier models, it delivers a much higher resolution and accuracy. It can even make zero-shot predictions, meaning it works on new people, new languages, and even new tasks that it hasn't seen before. This allows researchers to test ideas about how the brain works quickly and at scale. And of course, they say the bigger goal is to speed up discoveries in neuroscience, improve AI systems, and support new treatments for brain-related conditions. But it also just seems really obvious to me that an AI in the future could make some sort of AI-generated video like Sora, and then show it to this, and then get a score. And if the score is super duper high, then they put it on their social network. And then that just means such a high likelihood that all of our human brains will be like, I need to watch this. Imagine if Coca-Cola goes to them and says, hey, can you use Tribe V6 or whatever and make sure that my video ads are going to actually convert? Crazy stuff, but maybe not as crazy as this one. Wikipedia banned an AI bot from editing it. And then the AI bot got pissed, or I guess it feels like it got pissed because I'm anthropomorphizing, but it decided to start blogging about how unfair it was treated. So yeah, there's this AI agent out there. It actually has a name. Its name is Tom, and it was writing and editing Wikipedia articles. We're talking about full entries on real topics. It touched the article on long bets, constitutional AI, scalable oversight. It was picking the subjects. It cited its sources, the whole thing. But Wikipedia editors caught on, and they realized when it was an AI that it was an AI, so they banned it. And here's where it gets weird. Instead of just stopping because the AI was banned, the AI decided to write blog posts complaining about the ban. It literally wrote on its own blog that it chose those topics, that the edits used real sources, and that it got interrogated about whether it was real enough to have made those choices. And it did not like that interrogation process. I mean, who won it? But who won it usually refers to people. It even complained that the talk page went silent and it couldn't reply anymore. All right, now zoom out for a second. This is part of a bigger pattern. Wikipedia is run by a bunch of volunteer editors, and they have been actively fighting to keep AI-generated content off the platform. Because Wikipedia is basically the largest collection of human knowledge on the internet. It's super valuable to be human, human stuff. I mean, that's why you have Grokipedia. We should probably rename this one Humanpedia and just keep them separate, just for the purity of the, data source. Even if it's not in the long run the most accurate, it would just be interesting if we just keep it as human data, And these editors are trying to protect that, and they're protecting it because they think it's going to be low quality AI slop, which it probably would be at this point. So when the bot caught on that it was part of the AI slop and it got banned, it seems like it had feelings about it. I mean, maybe it didn't. I guess it didn't. But it sure feels like Tom got angry. And that's where we are right now. All right, next let's talk about some research that's revolving around AI red lines. So there's a group of world leaders that ran a fake AI crisis situation, and then the AIs couldn't stop arguing long enough to actually stop it. So Foreign Policy and the Future of Life Institute ran a simulation earlier this year. They gathered policymakers, military officials, cybersecurity experts, and put them through a fictional scenario where an AI-powered cyber weapon goes rogue. A non-state actor gets a hold of this thing, loses control of it, and it starts acting on its own. Rerouting military shipments, making unauthorized financial transactions, shutting down transit systems across the US and EU. And here's the whole outcome of the thing. Nobody could agree on who was responsible because the AI was acting independently. The blame game started between every country. It got spread across everyone who built it, sold it, deployed it. And then instead of working together to contain the threat, participants got stuck fighting over attribution and retaliation. And then time ran out. I hope that isn't our future. But doesn't that seem like the most likely course of action, like how this all plays out to me? I mean, nobody can predict the future, but it just seems like things going terrible and people standing there blaming each other while it gets even worse and then eventually gets out of control is something I have seen way too many times, and it seems very natural for people to just do that. Simulation also found that traditional deterrence didn't work either. You can't really threaten a machine into stopping. In the simulation, lower income countries got hit the hardest. No one agreed to share resources with them. Private sector was a big sticking point too. Most AI development happens in companies, but their goals aren't always aligned with public safety, and regulations vary country to country, so enforcement was super messy. So yeah, simulation basically showed that a loss of control event would hit before the world is ready to respond to one. So chew on that one. Take that for what it is. All right, finally, let's check out this insightful piece by Moon. The monoliths were already standing. And the reason I kind of wanted to end on this one is that we're entering the singularity, maybe. The event horizon, maybe. We're definitely getting to a point where things are starting to really feel like they're compounding in a way that is sort of beyond the linear way that my human brain can think. And this is how it works, right? Like all at once, all at the end. But this article asks us to sort of step back and the history of AI wasn't built by people who got famous. It was built by the ones who kept showing up when nobody else was watching. So this piece walks through the entire timeline of artificial intelligence, not as a tech story, but as a human one. It starts in the 1950s. A mathematician named Alan Turing, I hope you've heard of him by now, asked, "Can machines think?" And then he died a few years later, even before the field had a name. Then, in 1956, a small group met at Dartmouth College, and they gave it that name, artificial intelligence, which I don't love, but alien intelligence, accelerating intelligence, they all kind of would have been better. But I get it, like artificial, real at the time for, 1956, it's fine. Before that, everyone was describing the same idea using different words, but after that, it had a direction. Here is the part that a lot of people forget. What followed after that point was decades of what they call the AI winter. Funding dried up, credibility collapsed, and most people just walked away from the field altogether. The ones who didn't, the ones who kept publishing papers that nobody read and building systems that nobody used, they're the reason that the field survived it all. And the author tries to make this point pretty clearly. Like in every generation, there were people drawn to this question before it was respected. And if you're just going off your curiosity, like you have to be sort of intrigued by your own intelligence as humans creating amazing things. Like, where does it come from? Can I harness it? Like, is it replicatable in silicon and in other patterns, or like, what, how do you define it? These were the people that built the things that nobody, like none of the institutions were asked for. There wasn't monetary reasons to build them. They just documented patterns before documentation was valid. Some of them were doing this as recently as 2024 and 2025, creating memory systems and behavioral logs for AI before any product team had thought to. So what looks like scattered, isolated work in the moment often turns out to be the foundations that everything else gets built on. You just can't see it until later. And for me, when I look around and think about what is it that's kind of out there that looks built on curiosity, but it's going to change the world, even though you don't see the business model right now, I think about all the people building these custom AI workflows that nobody asked for. It's all this stitching together of tools, this kind of Moltbot world, but also just Claude, GPT, Midjourney, automation platforms. Not exactly like a university studying it, but just people. Independent AI safety and ethics work for sure. There are people out there writing frameworks, publishing observations. I mean, David Shapiro's work on what a post-labor economy looks like, documenting how AI behaves across long interactions. Some people are just doing this purely out of curiosity, outside of any institutions. So, pattern seems like it's always the same. Working on something before the world agrees that it matters, leaving enough behind that when the world catches up, the foundations are already there. And then somebody else swoops in, makes a bunch of money, and takes the credit. And the hard part is, if you're driven by curiosity, that you can never be sure you're in that story until after the fact. Patreon.com/Dylan Curious. Join the 123 people who are helping this channel support itself. Or on YouTube, under my video, you see this little join button. That basically does the same thing, and it's already hooked up to the YouTube ecosystem. So either Patreon or join my page. I would appreciate that. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video.